You're not a victim of your biology. You're just weak. In my last video, I explained why people cheat. Today, I'm going to destroy every single excuse I just gave you, because understanding something doesn't make it right. Listen carefully. Yes, monogamy is hard. Yes, society has unrealistic expectations. Yes, you have instincts. But you know what else you have? A choice. And today, I'm going to show you why choosing to cheat is choosing to destroy not just your partner, but yourself. This isn't a morality lecture. This is about consequences you can't escape. Let's go. Point 1. Biology isn't destiny. You're not an animal. Let's start with that biology excuse. Sure, humans have evolutionary drives. You know what else we evolved? A prefrontal cortex, the part of your brain that controls impulses, makes complex decisions, and separates you from animals humping in the street. Oh, but I'm biologically programmed for variety. You're also biologically programmed to hoard food, fight threats with violence, and crap wherever you want. But you don't. Why? Because you're a human with self-control. Every single day, you override biology. You go to work when you want to sleep. You save money instead of spending it. You stay calm when you want to scream. So why is sexual discipline suddenly impossible? It's not. You're just choosing the easy path and blaming evolution. That's not science, that's cowardice. And speaking of excuses, point 2. You're not fixing problems, you're creating catastrophes. You think cheating solves your unfulfilled needs? Let me tell you what it actually does. It creates a secret. Secrets create anxiety. Anxiety creates distance. Distance creates more problems. And when it comes out, and it always comes out, it doesn't just end a relationship, it nukes it. Your partner doesn't just lose you, they lose their ability to trust anyone. Their self-esteem shattered. Their mental health destroyed. You don't just break their heart, you break their reality. And kids, if you have kids, you just taught them that love is a lie, that commitment means nothing, that the person they trusted most is a stranger. You didn't solve a problem, you created a trauma that will echo through generations. Is that feeling alive worth making your child terrified of relationships for life? But here's what really happens to you. Real talk. Pause and comment right now. Do you believe in absolute right and wrong, or is everything situational? And if this is hitting different than the last video, hit that subscribe button. You need to hear uncomfortable truths from all angles. Point 3. The neuroscience of guilt. Here's what nobody tells you about cheating. The guilt doesn't go away. Your brain releases cortisol, stress hormone, every time you lie. Every single time. You're literally poisoning yourself with stress chemistry. You can't sleep properly. Your immune system weakens. You develop anxiety disorders, depression. Some people develop PTSD-like symptoms from their own guilty conscience. And here's the twisted part. You start resenting your partner. Not because they did anything wrong, but because their presence reminds you of your betrayal. So you pull away, become hostile, start fights, justify your affair by demonizing them to make yourself feel better. You turn yourself into the villain, and then rewrite history to make them the villain so you can sleep at night. But you can't, because deep down, you know what you are. The affair partner doesn't save you. They become another cage. Because relationships built on betrayal are built on sand. And you'll never trust them, because you know exactly what they're capable of. You showed them how. And the worst part? Point 4. You lose yourself. Integrity is everything. Here's what they don't tell you about integrity. It's not about being perfect. It's about being whole. When you cheat, you fracture yourself. You become two people. the person your partner thinks you are, and the person hiding in shadows. And living as two people is exhausting. But more than that, you lose respect for yourself. And without self-respect, you have nothing. No amount of pleasure, excitement, or validation from an affair can fill the void of knowing you're a liar. You think you're brave for following your heart? You're not. Bravery is having the hard conversation. Bravery is ending the relationship first if it's not working. Bravery is working through the desert of intimacy instead of running. When you cheat, you're not just betraying your partner. You're betraying every value you claim to have. You're proving that when things get hard, you crumble, that your word means nothing, that you'll sacrifice anything, trust, family, self-respect, for temporary satisfaction. And once you prove that to yourself, you'll never see yourself the same way again. You'll always be someone who could cheat. And that doubt, that's a life sentence you give yourself. So here's the reality. My last video explained why people cheat. This video explained why you still shouldn't. Both are true. Relationships are hard. Biology is real. Society's expectations are broken. But you're not a puppet. You have agency. And with agency comes responsibility. If your relationship is dead, end it. If you're unfulfilled, communicate. If you need variety, negotiate ethical non-monogamy. If you're not compatible, leave. But don't cheat. Because cheating isn't about your needs, it's about your character. And character is the only thing you truly own in this life. You want to feel alive? Build something you're proud of. Have the courage to be honest. Develop the discipline to honor your commitments or the courage to end them with integrity. That's how you win. Not by taking what you want in secret, but by being someone you respect in the light. If you watched both videos, you now understand both sides, the reasons people cheat, and why you should never do it. Drop a comment. Which video hit harder? And which reality are you going to choose? Subscribe if you want more truth that actually makes you think. Share this with someone who needs to hear it. And if you're struggling in your relationship right now, choose courage, choose honesty, choose integrity, because that's the person you want to be. See you in the next one.